Good morning, I was saying. Thanks for agreeing to come on DCP.
Thank you, sir. Although it was a late invite, but I appreciate the invite, nevertheless.
Excellent. I know it has been a busy period for the men and women of the police force. Let's start off in Fua Show, and then we'll move on to other things. Your reaction to that incident, firstly, how your men handled the incident, and the response that they got from the residents of that community, sir.
First of all, good morning, Saint Lucia. Let me thank the police officers on that operation for the high level of professionalism that they displayed during this incident. I found that they kept their cool for a very, very long time. And this is an incident that could have easily escalated. But in the long and short of it, that there were no injuries, nobody was hurt. So I just want to commend the police officers and to tell them that they should never retreat, and to assure the public that there will never be a no-go zone for any police officer in Saint Lucia.
Yeah, but the response that they got from the entire community, people around, shocking, surprising, some people saying even disgusting, and anti who we are as a people.
I don't think that is correct to say the entire community. What you saw on video was only a segment of the community. I know persons from Fuash who are decent, law-abiding citizens who constantly engage in our policing efforts. So to say the entire community is a bit of a stretch. As if anything else, the event was one where there was a consumption of alcohol, and not that it justifies bad behavior, but I just want to put it in perspective and to put it in context that not the entire Fuash community is bad. We have police officers who come from Fuash, we have lawyers, we have doctors. So to say the entire community, it was just a segment of the community.
Yeah, thanks for leveling that out, because we said it on Monday as well. Fuash has produced some excellent citizens as well, so we don't want to paint the entire community in that light. Speak to us about what the law says. I think it is Section 60 of the Police Act. What does that law say in reference to the execution of police duties?
Well, it speaks to whoever assaults, obstructs, or resists or incites any other person to assault, obstruct, or resist any police officer in the execution of his or her duty is liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 6 months. But I must also mention that the police in executing their duties can have the right to match force with force. And if a police is trying to effect an arrest, sometimes the police, there's various degrees of force that can be used. So in effecting an arrest, one needs to understand that the police can take appropriate action. And by appropriate action, I mean that they could use force in the execution of that arrest. Person who incites. So, for example, the police is trying to arrest somebody, and you tell the person, "Don't go," or "Run." This amounts to obstructing the police officer in executing his or her duty. No, not necessarily physical obstruction, but you can incite through words. You can, yes.
Yeah. One individual has been charged. Can you bring us up to speed with the status of that case?
Yes, one individual has been charged for the offense. 1 second.
Sure. Deputy Commissioner of Police Ronald Phillips, my very special guest.
I just want to ensure. Yes, sir. Donnie Jordan Shalmine, he was formally charged with the offense of resisting arrest, 2 counts of assault, damage to property, and using obscene language. Yes, sir. He was escorted to the First District Court. He was granted bail in the sum of $6,500 cash or suitable surety. Reporting conditions were also provided as a condition of the bail arrangements.
Yeah. A message, a warning, perhaps a lesson for all citizens that these are serious offenses.
Yes, and I could tell you, and again, I want to assure police officers that once they go out there and they act professionally and legally, that the executive of the Royal Saint Lucia Police Force, and I'm sure I speak for the commissioner, we will stand 100% with them. That is not an excuse to engage in errant or deviant behavior, and the public also needs to be assured that when police officers are carrying out their duty, if you have a problem with how police officers are carrying out their duty, if you feel offended, if you feel aggrieved, the law, there's provision that there's an avenue. There's the Police Complaints Commission where you can go and report a police officer if you feel so aggrieved. But to think that you can take the law into your own hands, or you can assault any police officer, it will not be tolerated. And I don't want any police officer to tolerate any form of disrespect or any form of abuse. And we need to, as an organization, we need to adopt a zero tolerance policy towards that kind of behavior.
Thanks for those strong words, DCP. What's the mood like amongst your men and women, especially in the aftermath of that incident?
Well, I cannot speak to the mood because I have not done any survey in terms of the general consensus. But a few officers I've spoken with, they are quite angry in terms of that kind of reaction. But we have also spoken with the policymakers, the powers that be, and they have assured us that they are going to support the police, continuously support the police. All they have asked is that we remain professional and that we do not engage in deviant behavior. But the point of the matter is, police officers ought to be angry when things like that happen. We can understand that police officers are really a segment of our society, and what a society is willing to accept. So as a society, I don't think it is so just for police officers, but I think it is so all law-abiding citizens, so the civic groups, the human rights persons, to come out and speak out against this kind of behavior. And because this is not just a policing issue. If you have a situation where citizens are turning against your police officers, you bet they will turn against you too at some point. So again, we need to be very careful of what we accept and what we condone as a society.
Lastly, on that for me, and then we move on to other things, Commissioner Phillip, are you worried that this is becoming a trend? Because we've seen it in other parts. We saw it in Marshall recently, now Fuashu. Are you worried that this is becoming a trend here on the island, where there is some lawlessness and no respect for the uniform and the authority of the police?
Worried, I'm not. Concerned, I am. Because I think that with the police force, there's no group of individuals that have the capacity or any, notwithstanding the innuendos out there or the foolish talk. There are no group of individuals, there's no gang, there's no group of persons that can outnumber our police force. Our police force is 1,300 strong, and we have the capacity to deal with any situation. Am I concerned? Yes. I'm concerned because when I look at the videos, I see the young persons who are involved. It is concerning to me as a young man. It's concerning to me as a police officer. So I do not think that worry is the language. I think that I'm concerned that this generation, or what we see now, this lawlessness, I'm concerned that society is not speaking out against it. I'm concerned that parents are not parenting properly, because I'm concerned that the schools are not doing enough. I'm concerned that civil society is not doing enough. That is my concern. But in terms of worried about persons behaving like that in relation to police action, I'm not worried about it, because I'm sure that the police force has the capacity and the willpower to deal with any threat posed by any group of persons when we execute our lawful duty. And
I can just sense the comfort for a lot of citizens hearing the passion in your voice speak to the commitment of the Royal Saint Lucia Police Force. Let's move on, DCP. The issue of student loitering, it's not a new issue, but you are trying to work with the various partners to bring it under control. Tell us about your efforts.
Again, well, this is a troubling issue for not just for law enforcement. I can tell you, it is the issue of loitering is a troubling issue for the business community. It's a troubling issue for parents. It's a troubling issue for school principals and teachers. I do not think, what I can say, I am not for, and personally, I am not for I'm not for the criminalization of any young person. I am not for the criminalization of any young person. But there comes a time when decisive and swift action has to take place. As it relates to loitering, I know that the police is trying very hard. I know that the principals, the teachers, the Ministry of Education, I know that they're concerned. I have spoken to the powers that be. I've spoken to the Minister of Education. I've spoken to the PS of Education. I've spoken to the Chief Education Officer. They're all concerned about loitering. I think generally, if you listen to the talk shows, if you go speak to the business persons, there is a genuine concern about loitering. But what I think what has been happening is that this issue has been left for the police to police. And I think what we need a collective approach, because there's no panacea to loitering. We need to, and I think the time has come where we need to come up with creative and innovative ideas to engage those young persons. Mm-hmm. So, for example, when I look at, say, the Jerry Colcott Square as an example, maybe we need to start engaging maybe Chamber of Commerce, the policymakers. How can, I'm just throwing out that idea. Mm-hmm. How can we convert the Jerry Colcott Square into a green space so after school, children can go in maybe for an hour or two and socialize? Young people's socialization is part of growing up. Mm-hmm. Whether we run after school children, whether we try to run school children are going to find ways of socializing. So yes, we may stop the loitering. We may stop loitering in the city. But guess what? Loitering is situational. They may move to a different location. But what you want to ensure is that when those students congregate after school, is that these energies and these talents are put into something productive, where they do not engage in nefarious activity, where they do not engage in criminal behavior, where they do not engage in the fights, the possession of unlawful weapons. We see situations now in recent times where we have students stealing from tourists. As a society, we really need to come together in unison for us to deal with this issue.
Mm-hmm. I like where you're going, Commissioner, because obviously, I said it's a complicated issue. The kids are loitering after school because the other option is for them to go home, but we know their parents aren't home. So even if they go home, they will be unsupervised and open to all sorts of possibilities. So I like where you're going in ensuring there is some structured sort of after school. We said after school program, but it has to be something that the kids will buy into as well. So the Derek Walcott Square idea, I'm really liking where you're heading there.
Right. And you also, maybe now is the time for us to see how we could revitalize, cause a rejuvenation in terms of these youth groups. I mean, the Cadet Corps, the Girl Guides, St. John Ambulance. Maybe, I'm not sure why those groups have fallen by the wayside in my mind, but maybe we need to start thinking again. Maybe persons who can afford allow for those groups to get some sort of subvention, because, say for example, St. John's Ambulance or the Cadet Corps, a parent may want their child to go to one of those groups, but may not have the means to afford the uniform which associate them. So maybe now we need to start thinking of how can we give those groups some subvention, a greater subvention. I'm not sure if it's through our national budget. I'm not sure if it is Chamber of Commerce. I'm not sure if it's through the church. But we probably need to start to think of ways to engage those youth, because the point, like I said to you, if we criminalize those young persons now and arrest and charge them for loitering, and the thing is, it's a serious offense. The point is, when you are arrested and charged and you get a criminal offense, it will affect the quality of life moving forward. It will affect the possibility of a job, possibility of migration. And these are the kind of things we really need to speak to our young persons about, show them the implication for their action. But again, we need to find ways as a society to divert to that energy. We need to find a way of harnessing those energies, those talents. If I could tell you, for example, in the police force, right now we have several initiatives. I know ACP Thomas is working on the Prince Stress program, something similar to the Duke of Edinburgh. The Royal Saint Lucia Police Band through ASP Dyson, he has already advised, or I know he's working assiduously to form a Royal Saint Lucia Police Force youth band. And these are the kind of initiatives that the different groups can come together to sort of help assist those young persons. Because we need to provide avenues so that these young persons could channel their energies instead of the loitering. Maybe if you can grab them 2 days a week from the city, we may just save them. And that's what our focus should be on, helping those persons in the right direction instead of criminalizing them. Yeah. I know based on the talk shows, persons are divided on the issue in terms of the police should arrest and what have you. Yes, police should arrest, but I think that arrest should be after we've tried.
Yeah, excellent. Well said, because I can assure you, if the program is attractive, the children will go and they will participate. The parents have an important role to play in the parenting. We know people are a lot busier now, but even instilling those values of discipline in those children, parents have a very important role to play, you think?
I do agree with you. Again, I think we just need to go back to the spirit of community involvement. I think entire communities, we need to start being each other's keeper again. I think that is what is lacking. We have become, in my mind, we have become too individualistic. We have become, it's now about me and my child. We need to start looking at other kids. Even in the classroom, a parent can see another child probably does not, his parent or his or her parent can't afford, but we need to reach out. We need to, I think we really need to go back to the community spirit. We really need to go back to the community spirit where a community is raising a child. Because some parents, I don't think any parent wants bad for the child. Mm-hmm. Parents I think genuinely, parents want what's right for the child. In terms of how we go about it, we may differ. But I think every parent wants what's best for the kids. So I think as a community, we just need to be each other's keeper and start being more interested. We cannot, I think sometimes you have to say, that's not my child, okay. But if all of us develop an attitude, then it is going to cause a breakdown in terms of our value system, our morals. So I think it's just a matter of us being more cognizant of the fact and that we try to be each other's keeper. Yeah.
Lastly on this matter, and then we'll move on. So you have been collaborating with education and other stakeholders, and you had issued a circular, but because of the process and wanting to do it better, you had cause to recall. Speak to your approach of collaboration moving forward in trying to stem this issue.
I'm not sure I understand your question. Recall what?
You did release a statement saying that the students who loitering and engaging in criminal activity will be penalized if I am so correct. But that has been recalled.
Yeah, I do not think we need to. I saw the article or the headline saying that the police recall. I think let us put this into context.
Yes.
I think the officer was well-intentioned, and there is criminal liability. And a police officer is empowered to arrest anybody, school child, adult or not, if he or she engages in criminal behavior. So that is clear. Mm-hmm. So I don't even think that a memo needs to, any letter needs to be sent out to arrest any school child who engage in unlawful fighting or who's in possession of a dangerous instrument, as long as they reach the age of criminal responsibility. And if anybody is committing any criminal offenses, whether school child or not, the police will arrest them. So let's get that clear.
Yes.
In terms of the memo went out prematurely, I must say. So the apology is when you're dealing with systems, the minister and the PS is in charge of the Ministry of Education. So the apology, the letter could have offended. The letter could have offended because the necessary protocol was not adhered to. But in terms, the officer was spoken to. The officer, in my mind, was well intentioned. So the apology had more to do with the persons, because persons were generally concerned in terms of persons, almost as if persons were undermining the authority. But I can tell you that was not the intention. And as a police force, if we make a mistake, it is okay to apologize. And yes. I've always told police officers, we must never be too big, we must never be too aloof or too arrogant. If we make a mistake, we can apologize, because in any law enforcement agency in the world, mistakes will be made. Mistakes will be made. We are dealing with human beings, we are dealing with imperfect beings. You follow? So I think it was appropriate. It was appropriate to offer an apology to persons who offended, because if somebody from Ministry of Education would write my subordinate officers, and I would feel offended, because I think that you ought to follow the necessary channels. So I do not think that, but to say that we retracted is not to retract from, is not to say that the police will not execute or will not arrest a child if a child commits, not a child, a young person, if a person commits a criminal action. But the intent is not to, like I said to you from earlier on, the intent is not to criminalize young people. We have systems in place where we can assist young persons. So we have arrested young persons, and they're now part of our organization. You understand? Maybe that arrest was a changing point. So I'm just saying it's a matter of, but we must have control and laws, and until then, until laws are changed, the police will enforce laws.
Yeah. Thanks for clarifying. And just hold on for me. I want to agree with you. Perhaps the headline for me in that story, that development, was that the police were not too big to apologize. But thanks for clarifying. That should have been the headline, and that was your approach. There was an error made in as far as how the information was disseminated and the process, the protocol. So you apologize to those who felt offended. Hold on for me, DCP. Go ahead.
But I also want, because police officers may have a misconception too. But I want to remind police officers that any police officer, again, once you are executing your duties within the parameters of the law, my office and the office of the commissioner is going to support you. So never mind the criticism, never mind the persons out there, because that is the society we live in. Persons are going to criticize any action you take anyway. But the point is, we must again remain professional and treat young people with respect. But it doesn't mean that the apology was that we are not going to arrest. We are going to arrest if it necessitates an arrest.
Yes, excellent. Just hold on. I'm going to share with you some feedback from our viewers. Somebody nicer, Sealy, is saying, I agree 100% with the reintroduction of youth groups. Paulinda Augustine says, excellent, deputy. Redirect the kids' energy in constructive activities. Another viewer is saying, Deputy Commissioner Phillip, you're truly hitting the real issues, and I am loving it. So some feedback here, just from our viewers. I want to move on to a few issues before I let you go. We're in the deep now of the cruise season. Speak to us about your plan for policing the city in particular, and what are some of the challenges there?
Since the cruise ship season, the cruise tourism has started, I can tell you we have an operational order, we have an operational plan in effect. Inspector Poyot is the one overseeing cruise operations, and I must commend her publicly because she's been doing a very, very good job. We have had a few incidents involving crimes against tourists, but I know that in the 3 or 4 that I know of, the items were recovered almost the same day or the day after. I think that generally the cruise liners are satisfied. The stakeholders I've spoken with, they're generally satisfied with the police presence. I know that there's a strong police presence, and we have Inspector Point, like I said, she's dedicated. That is a function for this activity. We'll always have challenges with resources, but I know in the last couple of months, there has been an effort to give the police greater resources. There's a greater visibility. So I think all in all, the police is doing fairly well. We have support agencies. I must mention the Castries City Council as a support agency. I know SLASPER. We have support agencies, and we have the citizens who are, when they see things, they report to us. So, and that is where we really need to be headed. As a society, we need to understand, and I've said it time and time again, that there is a symbiotic relationship between economics and security. So we need to protect the tourism product because our livelihood depends on it. So it's not the police. So we as a society need to start looking at tourism differently. It is what is driving our economy. So we need to collectively protect the product that is on offer.
Excellent. Few more domestic matters. Bring us up to speed if you can on the missing persons cases. Any new developments on the Sufra matter and the Omar de Freitas matter?
Let me express, I'm not sure I could really put it into words because because both matters are almost, they're very touching. Again, like the family, I'm holding on to hope that some information, something will come up. I noticed that the place of employ of Mr. Omar placed a reward out. I'm encouraging citizens, anyone with information in any of those matters, to please contact the police. If you think that you cannot trust the police, go to a priest, go to a principal, but let us have the information so that we can bring closure to those families. I know that when you have missing loved ones, it is something that's very stressful. I really wish for closure for those families. My heart goes out to the families. It cannot be an easy thing. It must be difficult. It must be painful. Every day that goes by, I know that as a police force, I know we have done several searches. We're investigating both matters. We're looking for help through CCTV, through information. So I'm hoping that we can bring closure to both of those cases in short order.
Yeah. And lastly, from me to you, Deputy Commissioner Ronald Phillips, last year, 2022, was extremely bloody year. Your final message to our citizenry, or message of reassurance that your men and your women will work hard. I know it's beyond you a lot of the times, but to see a reduction and to bring some normalcy to the Saint Lucia that we know or we knew, which was a lot more safer and secured.
Yeah, but in all honesty, last year we actually had a reduction in homicides by 4%.
4%.
I know the percentage is small, but we had a reduction in homicide by 4%. I must tell you that several islands in the Caribbean, and this is no excuse, several islands in the Caribbean had record homicide numbers. St. Vincent, Dominica, Grenada had a 40% increase. Mm-hmm. Jamaica had an increase. Trinidad hit the 600 mark. So Latin America and the Caribbean. So this homicide phenomenon is not something that just affects St. Lucia. And I'm not saying that it is an excuse for any sort of police inaction. Again, what we need is collective, coordinated approach. What we see happening is that most of our homicides last year were committed through the use of firearms. So I'm asking the St. Lucian public, when they know that those criminals, those thugs in the neighborhoods have firearms, they can discreetly pass on the information to the police. I know that Commissioner has made a case for an increased allowance to pay informants compensation to help us rid the streets of those guns. So I want to tell persons that yes, we have mechanisms, we have reward mechanisms, we have anonymous lines, we have the 555. You can give us the information, and we will act. We will act on it. Again, to 2023, it's the start of the year. I want to urge solutions. Let us look for more meaningful ways in terms of how we can engage in dispute resolution without the use of weapons. It is okay for us to be in conflict. Conflict is a part of society, but what is not okay is in the manner in which we handle conflict through violence or those kind of means. Whilst we're at it, I know in the Dennery region yesterday, there's a continuation of stakeholder consultation with the Seventh-day Adventist Church in partnership with the Royal Saint Lucia Police Force through Dr. Neil Chitan. He's an international crime mitigation consultant. Dr. Neil Chitan. Yeah, Chitan, yes. Sorry. He's an international crime mitigation consultant. And there was some level there was a town hall meeting at the Dennery Primary School. The Seventh-day Adventists, I want to applaud them as a church for this initiative. I know the Catholic Church through the clergy and the Archbishop, I know that they're doing their part in terms of trying to engage and trying to. So again, that is what we need. We need everybody on board in this crime fighting thing. Because again, there's no panacea to this crime problem. There's no quick fix. But every agency needs to play the part. Ministry of Education, Social Transformation, the Youth Economy, Ministry of Equity. We need to ensure that the mechanisms to address the social issues are in place. So again, the police is part of the pie. It's not an excuse. We will continue to do our best. I'm going to encourage police officers to do our best. The point is we are law enforcement officers ready to protect and serve. We will do our best, but we need all agencies on board. The media has a role to play. the media, again, the sensationalism. What are we portraying? Yes, do we sell sexiness, or we want to encourage persons? So persons like you have a platform to assist, not the police, but you have a platform to assist society, to guide young persons. And I think that is what is needed. I think a holistic approach. I need to, everybody, each organization, each individual need to look within themselves and say, I don't want to be part of the problem. What can I do? What can I do to be part of the solution? I think if everybody, or if most persons adopt that approach, then we can see a safer, a more secure Saint Lucia where citizen safety and citizen security is realized.
Excellent. Well said, well represented this morning, Deputy Commissioner Ronald Phillips. I got more time than I negotiated, so I want to thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak with you this morning. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I would have interacted with you when you wore a different uniform, and I mean no harm by this. When you wore a different uniform, the uniform of the SSU, a lot of people at that time appreciated Ronald. I mean no harm as that high-handed, hard-handed police officer. You were very, very tough, but I appreciate that you would have been sufficiently trained then to now, and you've transformed into this new role that you've occupied so well. You did an excellent job representing the police force this morning.
Yeah, thank you. I know you knew me when I was a lead crime fighter, but I'm still a crime fighter. I'm a detective at heart. I'm still a crime fighter. This is why I can empathize and relate to what the officers go through daily. I was there. I know that sometimes a high-handed approach is needed. Again, different strategies. You won't employ every strategy for different persons. When I was the officer in charge of Babuno, the committee, when you look at what it entails, then we use a community policing strategy. In some areas, some people will not buy into community policing. Some people you have to fight fire with fire sometimes, But you need to understand that there's no one size fits all. We need to look at different communities, look at different segments of societies, and adopt policing approaches that are relevant to the time and to the segments.
Yeah. A viewer, Jen Eugene, says, very well spoken, Mr. Phillips. Thanks so much for your time this morning. We'll talk again when next the opportunity arises.
Thank you, sir.
Deputy Commissioner of Police Ronald Phillips.